super boring and you have to go or something like that, we are recording this session and you will be able to see the whole thing again on our YouTube channel. So you're not going to miss anything. Anyway, so I'm Natalia. I'm one of the managers of Stanlake Park. I'm going to make a lot of grammar mistakes, and I hope you will forgive me. I'm from Argentina, so and my husband, the winemaker of Stanley, he's Italian. So I speak a foreign language at home because we speak Italian. I speak a foreign language when I work, and at some time of the day, everything gets mixed and I will probably make a mess of grammar mistakes. But don't worry, the important thing tonight is the wine, and the wine, you have the wine, you'll be okay. A big thank you to all the organizers. I've been asked or proposed to do this, and I thought, oh yeah, this is going to be a super fun. This is all their efforts and their energy and all this very positive way of thinking. I am so grateful that we were involved in doing this. I'm really happy with that. So I love questions. We were talking to Sue that sometimes the chat is a bit distracting, but just write your questions if you like. You can ask me questions later. I used to be a university teacher, so I'm very used to be interrupted and I can improvise, don't worry. So I really like questions. We normally do tours and tastings and Stanlake. Some of you, I've been there, you've been there already, I've seen you. We're starting with our tours and tastings again on July the 4th. So just 1 week to go. So this weekend, you have a lot of things to do at Hurst. And the next weekend, you could just pop in at Stanlake Park. The wine bar in the garden is going to be open again. So you can just pop in for a glass of wine. No need to book in or anything. We're just really a walking distance from Hurst. So I hope you just find a moment to just pop in and have a glass of wine. If you were hoping for me to do a super posh, fancy tasting, you got it wrong because I'm not a posh person. But what I like to do in my tastings is to teach you the real things that you really need to know and not all the snobbism and all the posh things. So I saw that you have your wine. The most important thing is to open your wine. And I know that this is going to sound very stupid, but a lot of people doesn't know how to use this kind of a corkscrew. And I hope you're going to see it. It's called a waiter's friend for a reason. It is a friend, it's the best, it's the most easy way to open a bottle. And normally do this on my tours and tastings. So I'm going to do it again, hoping that all the wine is not going to be spilled on my mark and then I will be disconnected. Yeah, so this is the corkscrew that I'm talking about. And this is very, very easy. You're just going to put your corkscrew almost in the middle of the cork. And you're just going to just go. And why I teach this in my tours, I do this because a lot of people contact us and tell us, oh, the cork was broken, there's something weird with the cork, I couldn't open. Well, the majority of the case is just a lack of technique. So the big mistake that most of the people do is just that they stop there, okay? Don't stop there, keep going until the end, until you can't see the twist thing. And once you get there, this kind of corkscrew has two things to help you. So you're going to put the first one there and pull, and the second one there and pull. And I'm just sitting. I don't need my strong husband. I don't need anyone to help me. I only need one hand. This is the easiest way to open a bottle, okay? So I can show it again if you ever around in Stanley anyway. So we have our wine. The first wine that I want you to try, well, obviously you can choose your wines. I can see some of you that started with the Regatta. Yeah, well done. We normally start with white, but you don't need to open your 3 bottles today. We don't want to encourage you to drink more than you will normally do. If you normally would drink 3 bottles, go ahead then, okay? But otherwise, you can choose one, and the other ones leave it for another day or whatever. You just go whatever you fancy. So this is the Regatta. This is one of our most popular wines. And I'm going to pour it. And to pour it, I'm going to use a drop stop. This is something very silly for me because it's very common in my country, but it's quite unusual here in England. It's just a disc, a metal disc. So you just put it like this and you put it inside the bottle. And this helps you to pour without spilling and without doing a mess, okay? It's something very, very, very silly. We have them at Stanlake, it's just kind of £1 or something. And it helps you, particularly when you do a lot of tastings or when you're pouring from a distance, like when you have a big barbecue and you have a lot of people sit and you can't reach and you need to follow social distancing, right? So it's even worse. You definitely need this because you can pour it. My video camera doesn't get it, but yeah, you can pour it from a distance and the little thing there will help you not to make a mess and spill all over your guests at your barbecue. So just two little tricks. Right, so we have a wine. What I'm going to do, I'm not going to be super fancy telling you what you have to smell or whatever. I am going to be a myth buster. What I want to just to forget about a lot of things that you've been told that you have to think, that you have to smell, and you have to believe about wine, because the majority of things about wine are lie. Well, not the majority, but a lot of things that you heard about wine, it's just overreactions of things, okay? But yeah, one of the important things, because there are important things as well, is to know how to taste your wine. You can just drink your wine and that's good. And that's what we want people to do, just drink it, okay? But you can also taste it and try to understand a little more and improve the whole experience. So if you drink it, it's good. Perhaps if you pay a little more attention to the wine, just the first glass, the rest just go. Just the first glass, you pay a little more attention, you're gonna get a lot of other things. So one of the important things of tasting the wine is swirling the glass. And why people do that? Well, it's not something posh, it's not supposed to be super pretentious. It actually has a chemical explanation and it has something real. The thing is that the flavors inside your wine are volatile, which means that when you move it and oxygen enters into your wine, the flavors and the aromas just go and kind of volatilize, or whatever you pronounce in English. But the thing is that they go up, okay? So you move it and you put it on your nose and you're going to smell a lot of things more than when you don't move it, okay? I spoil it now, but the next wine that you put in your glasses, do this. First time, smell it without swirling, then swirl, and then smell again. And you will get an amplification of things that you're going to get after you smell it. It's just the oxygen. It's nothing really pretentious or whatever. It's just the oxygen getting there and lifting up the flavors and carrying the flavors into your nose, okay? It's just chemistry, actually, or physics, actually. Right, so we swirl the glass. It takes some time to practice. Don't do it if you're not very used to it around a lot of people, because everybody can get split. You can start doing this with your table. When you start with the table, it's kind of the way we all began. We start with the table and eventually you get that hold in your this part of the arm that I don't remember the name, but it's just very, 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 very tiny. I can see a lot of swirling. So means that people are listening, and that's so encouraging. And yeah, well done, guys. Yeah. So we swirl and we smell. Right. Before I talk about the Regatta, or I can tell you that things I am smelling. I'm smelling some green apple. I'm smelling a bit of peach, a bit of apricot, and those are the typical aromas of this wine. But the most important thing, why my wine tastes like peach if it's made from grapes. It sounds like a very silly thing, and a lot of wine snobs and wine connoisseurs just forget to explain the most important thing. Why our wine tastes like other fruit? It's made with grape. Who put peach there? Well, first thing to know, nobody added peach on your wine or green apple, or whatever you're smelling. And that's because that would be completely illegal, okay? That would be called an infused wine. There are some infused wine in the market. There are some Ecofols or all the kind of these American big brands in the supermarket. They are infused wines. They have like infused with strawberry, infused with raspberry or whatever. That is another category of a drink actually. But real wine is made only with grapes. The thing is that during fermentation, which means during the process when the grapes are processed and there are chemical changes there that happens inside the, I'm trying to be very simple, happens inside the grape, and the grape will produce alcohol, which is what we want, and they will produce a little gas as well. And they also will suffer some chemical changes. So some substances that they were in the grape will change chemically, and they will convert into the same substances that you can find on a peach, or the same substance that actually gives the peach the flavor of peach, okay? So that's why your Pinot Noir tastes like strawberries. It's just that that grape in particular, when fermented, creates the chemical compounds that are exactly the same that gives strawberry the smell that we know as strawberry, okay? That's why some grapes, when they are very famous, like Sauvignon Blanc planted here in England or in New Zealand or in France or whatever, is the same grape. So when you ferment that grapes, always produces the same elements, the same aromas. So everybody knows that Sauvignon Blanc tastes like berry, apple, or tastes like this and this and that. So people like me that have nothing better to do, we study the profiles of the grapes, and we know that our Sauvignon Blancs are going to taste like this, our Pinot Grigios are going to taste like this, and blah, 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 okay? So when we are smelling and we say, oh, I get green apple and peach, nobody added the green apple there, okay? It's just the grapes when they're fermented. It sounds like a very silly thing for some people, but it's actually a very legit question that a lot of people ask me during my tour. So speaking about Pinot Grigio, we call our Regatta our Pinot Grigio. It's not made by Pinot Grigio grapes. It's made by other grapes that you might probably never even heard about. Those grapes are called Schomburger, German name, and another grape is called Bacchus, which is another wine that we made, and it's very popular. It's called just Bacchus. But those grapes, no matter the name, are the grapes that we crush and then we process to put into the Regatta. But as a result, the wine tastes very similar to a Pinot Grigio. It's very it's fruity, it's delicate, it's very easy to drink. So I hope that you guys are drinking this are thinking the same. Yeah, it's kind of a Pinot Grigio. It's kind of a very, it's like not our entry level. It's not the cheapest one we have, but it's kind of our house wine. And it's definitely one of the best sellers. I want to believe that that's because it's good and not because it's cheap, but I don't know. Hopefully it's perhaps it's just a mix of the same. Right, so just checking times, yes. Yeah, I'm going to do this now. So I only talk about the smell, but you know, after you smell the wine, you have to drink it. Actually, I've been 10 minutes smelling my wine. What are you doing? Just drink it. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Right. And when you drink your wine in the mouth, you get a lot of other information that you didn't get necessarily on the nose. You get all the aromas on the nose, but in the mouth, the most important thing that you get, one is the acidity. So the acidity is just the level of freshness. So this one is very refreshing, but it's not tart or harsh, harsh, yeah. It's just, it has a good balance between the fruit. It has a lot of fruit and the acidity. So the wine is flavorsome, but it's not always refreshing, but it's not tart. Okay, and that's very important. In England, you guys have a kind of not very warm weather. Well, I know you all are thinking, oh, today is very warm. Well, it's probably very warm for you, In my city, I come from Santa Fe, which is in the north of Argentina. For me, summer starts with 40, 45 degrees. That's my summer. This is spring temperatures for me. I know you were all dying today, I know. But anyway, all together, England, it has a cool climate from a viticulture perspective. And when you have a cool climate, you have different features. You can grow any grape. You need to grow grapes that grow in cool climate. So you can't grow Malbec, for instance. My Malbec, my Argentinian Malbec, needs much more sun and much more warm. So you can plant them and you might even get grapes, but your grapes are going to be green at the beginning and they will always be green. They will never ripe, okay? That's why we can't make Malbec or, I don't know, Cabernet Sauvignon here in England. We have other grapes. A few that I already mentioned, which are very boring because nobody knows them. But we also have more famous grapes that like cool climates, like Pinot Noir or Chardonnay, or yeah, I'm thinking of very, very famous one, or Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc is okay. Pinot Grigio or Pinot Gris. Those grapes like cool climate. And actually, we don't have in Argentina Pinot Noir because it's too hot for Pinot Noir. So depending on where you are, you're going to plant one grape or others. And at Stanlake Park, for instance, I completely forgot to talk about Stanlake Park. Yeah, I work for Stanlake Park. So at Stanlake Park, they planted the first vineyards in 1979. 78 actually. And at that time, 40 years ago, they had no idea which grapes will cope with the weather, which grapes will actually resist and grow. So they planted 30 grape varieties, pretty much whatever they can source and they can find. They just planted all the grapes they could find and see what happened. And today, we still have around 12, 15 grapes. Some are very just a few plants. So let's say that half of them died because they never adapted to this weather. And the other half are still going and they're old vines and they have 40 years old, those vines, so they're very good plants, very resistant, very well adapted. But we do have to choose our grapes. And what I was trying to say since the beginning, when you taste the wine in your mouth and you have acidity, the acidity is very common in cool climate countries like this one, or Germany, or New Zealand, or Canada, or the north of England, of Italy, sorry, or the north or France. Whereas in Argentina, the whites are very bland and are quite annoying and boring because they don't have acidity. And you want your white to be refreshing, particularly a day like today, right? So this is something that we don't lack here in England. We have a lot of acidity. So the thing is, the trick is to balance that acidity with the fruit. And I hope that we manage to do that with the Regatta, okay? I'm gonna change the wine. Yeah, I'm throwing it away. Sorry, I can't drink all day wine. You know what I mean. So I have my second wine. I don't know who is drinking this one tonight. This is my personal baby, I have to say. This is our #1 bestseller of the season. It's a Pinot Noir Rosé from 2019, which means that all the grapes were harvested last year, last October. And I remember because I was here, whereas the Regatta, the first one that you taste, the grapes were harvested in 2017. So I wasn't here, so I don't remember. Actually, I was in Italy, so I couldn't know. I'm having my rosé, pouring my rosé. And with the rosés, there's another myth, a very, very important myth that you need to just forget and never ever repeat again. So, and I hear that very often. So let's see the color of this wine. This rosé is pink, definitely pink, but very pale. And the best way to see the color of the wine, just put something white behind it, okay, and just perhaps move a little your glass. I can do, okay, like this. So you see the color. And it's definitely pink and it's definitely pale. And of course, when you put it inside a bottle with a lot of wine, it looks a little darker, but it's actually very pale. The color of the rosé is very important from a marketing perspective, because the majority of people think that pale rosé equals dry and dark rosé equals sweet. And that's one of the biggest mistakes of the market, but actually it's not your fault. It's the wines in the supermarket's fault, probably. So in this country, there are, if you go to supermarket, there are a lot of, well, not a lot, but a few brands that are very dark and are very sweet. And there's all these American brands like Ecofalls or these kind of wines. So you tend to think that those wines are dark, so they're sweet. And then you go and try some Provence Rosé and made in France, which they're normally dry because that's the style in France, they're always dry, or at least in Provence, and they're pale. And you say, oh, okay, pale, dry. The thing is, you can have in other areas of the world a dark rosé that is still dry. The dry or sweet character of a wine is just the amount of sugar that the wine has. The sugar is inside your grapes, okay? If you ferment your grapes, which means that the yeast that lives around in the environment just eats the sugar and converts it into alcohol. If you let the yeast to eat all the sugar, you have all the alcohol you need and zero sugar residual, okay? That's a dry wine, a wine that has no sugar on it. Whereas if you stop the fermentation at the middle and kill the yeast, just chill in the wine, or you add some sugar at the end, you might have it a sweet wine. Very often, big companies that make bulk wine, like it means millions of bottles per year, they will harvest the grapes when they are not ready because they need to produce a lot, or they will produce a lot of grapes and all the flavors will be diluted. So they're going to harvest a lot of grapes, they're going to process all together, and when they make those wines, they don't really taste a lot like nothing in particular. So when something in the drinks industry doesn't taste like nothing, the drinks industry always adds sugar, because humans have a taste for sugar. You know, we've developed this taste for sugar in our palate. So if you add sugar, people will like it, not because it tastes like nothing in particular, it's just sweet and it tastes like sugar, and people buy it for that. So that's what big companies like Ecofalls, or I don't remember the name of the other one, but it will come back to my mind. But you know what I mean, these companies, big companies that made this dark rosé that is only sugar on it. But that's not necessarily because of the color. The color of the rosé has absolutely nothing to do with the level of sweetness, okay? It's just something that I decide completely separated. Are you going to make it sweet or are you going to make it dry? Is one decision. Are you going to make it pale or are you going to make it dark? Is another decision. So don't think that a dark rosé is going to be sweet. It's not necessarily sweet. You need to try it and you need to see if it's sweet. That said, this is not sweet, this is dry. This is made with Pinot Noir grapes, 100% Pinot Noir grapes from our vines in Stanlake. And if you were listening what I did, what I told you with the Regatta, first smell, then swirl, and then smell again. And after you swirl, I'm sure that you're going to get some raspberry, kind of a raspberry bubble gum, or something like a strawberry bubble gum, something like that. For me, it's really raspberry bubble gum, this wine. And that's what I really like. It's kind of very mature red fruits on the nose. But then when you taste it, it's dry. And I love that because I really like dry wines. And Nico, my husband, who is a winemaker, he only do dry wines here at the Stanlake. We want them dry because we like them dry. But the majority of the consumers like them dry anyway. So just swirl it again. And if you fail to find what other people are saying that you should smell in the glass, A, don't worry. B, try again and see. You can't find Probably the others are just pretending to know what they're saying, okay? So just forget about it. Just do your own tasting and see what you get. For me, and as a personal point of view, it's very, very raspberry more than anything else. And then when you taste it, there's all this acidity again. It's very refreshing, kind of lemony or grapefruit in the mouth. It's very, very citrusy on the mouth. It's, the raspberry bubblegum is not in the mouth anymore. It's much more grapefruit, pink grapefruit. We want the rosé to be as that refreshing, because the rosé is a kind of wine that you drink now, spring and summer. It has to be refreshing, otherwise it can be boring, or it can be dull or bland. So since we launched this one, this has became our super bestseller, up to the point that Nico said that if we continue selling like that, we might sold out of this by the end of August, which is a nightmare, because we need some rosé to get to Christmas, because in Christmas a lot of people look for rosé, but I don't think we're going to make it. So yeah, and another very interesting thing that I didn't mention is I hope you like the new labels. So this is, Regatta still has the old label, so nothing wrong with it, but just a bit corporate from my personal taste. I'm not a corporate person. So a friend of mine have designed this label. Is an artist, but also a wine expert. We study wine together in London. And so he made these flowers. It's a watercolors made with her own hand. I have the originals. And I hope you like them, because they are really completely different from whatever Stanlake Park labels used to be in the past. And we had a very good feedback with that labels as well. So I hope you think the same. Just reading my notes to see if I am not forgetting something really important. So this, as I was saying, this was made with Pinot Noir. And Pinot Noir, we call it the super grape. Pinot Noir is the grape which you can do a lot of amazing things. You can do this rosé. You can do a sparkling rosé, which we also have at Stanlake. You can do reds, and we have our Pinot Noir red from 2018, not yet on the shelf, but we are releasing it in autumn. And you can do sparkling wine. So champagne is made mainly with Pinot Noir and Chardonnay grapes. So Pinot Noir is really a super grape. It's a black grape, but from that black grape, you can make rosé, you can make white, you can make sparkling, you can make reds. So it's definitely a super grape for us, and we have it, and we love it. And this year we might not have a lot, because in May, a lot of people didn't realize that there was like a whole week of frost. And you might, if you didn't wake up very early in the night, you might have even missed it, because during the day was nice and warm, but during the night was very frosty, and it was even at Stanley it got until -3 degrees. So it was very frosty. So we lost about 30% of our grapes. So I smile now, but it actually was a disaster. Making wine in England has a lot of risk. Frost is one risk, spring frost is a risk. And that also, there's a lot of other weather and climatic risk, and they make a mess, and they change our crops, and they reduce our grapes. And that's why, generally speaking, English wine is always a bit more expensive than wines that you can make in other areas in the world, which are much easier. My husband and I, we have 6 hectares of vines in his land in Puglia, in south of Italy, and it's every year you can make wine there. There's never a problem. It's very easy to grow grapes there and to make wine. So it's very consistent. And so you can buy Puglian wines. You might have tried Primitivo or some Puglian wines, and they're not very expensive, because every year you know that you can get a big crop. So, but that's not the case in England. Right, and I was talking about Primitivo. So let's, because we're talking about Primitivo, it's a red wine, I'm gonna move to my red. I saw that a few of you had already started with the red since the beginning. So yeah, this is our red. This is a wine that you might have known if you taste wines of Stanlake in the past. It's a new label of an old wine that has been done in Stanlake since many years. It's called the Reserve. But this is a completely new batch that Nico made and Nico released. By the way, to know which are the wines that we as a new management team have done, you simply had to read the labels. Nico always put his signature there. So that is Nico Chantonce. So that's his name. So the Rosé is the same, and there are many other wines. He always puts his name. And I need to remember to tell you a very funny story about, actually I will tell you now, before drinking, while you finish your glasses, my husband's name is actually not Nico, it's Nicola. So in Italy, Nicola, which is spelled exactly the same as Nicola, is a male's name. So he is called Nicola, which is a boy's name. But when we moved here in England, he started to have a lot of problems. And everybody thought that I was Nicola and I was the winemaker, because it's just it's a girl's name here in this country. So we had to cut his name, and now he's only called Nico, because otherwise even the NHS was sending him letters as a girl, and actually he received an invitation to do a cervical screening from the NHS. So we decided that this couldn't happen anymore, and we cut his name, and he's Nico now. 2 letters from the NHS, even when we complain. Miss Nicola. So yeah, well, because it's a girl's name here. So Nico is my husband. It's not a girl. So I put the wine there. You can see that my wine is only half of it. We had another Zoom tasting yesterday, so I've been through already this wine yesterday. So can we make good red wines here in England? I always get asked that question in the shop. People that enter, yeah, I want to try some wine. Red, English red. And they put that face like, well, you can definitely can do a good red. You need to know certain things. You need to know which grapes you're going to use. You can't just, I don't know, plant Malbec and say, oh, let's do a Malbec. And the grapes will never ripen. And your wine is going to taste harsh. It's going to taste acidic. It's going to taste like green in the mouth and not very pleasant at all. Nico has a long experience of making reds, because in Puglia we make only reds and roses. So he knows how to treat his grapes to make it good. So if you taste this one in particular, I trust that you are going to find it quite smooth. It's not a harsh, tannic, or the kind of the ones that make you this kind of sensation in your mouth. It's actually the opposite. And that's because the grapes were super ripe. Nico knows when to pick them. Not only Nico, obviously, a lot of people know, it's not a secret, but people that can make good red wines, let's say. And in this one in particular, we don't use any new oak barrels. You know that in English, not in English, sorry, in wine industry, since the beginning of times, oak barrels are very commonly used for reds. And there are 2 reasons for that. One, when the oak is new, it provides flavors to the wine. So it provides this vanilla, toast, smoke, coconut, chocolate, coffee, all descriptors for oak barrels. If you guys drink Rioja, every Rioja drinker here might recognize some kind of vanilla, toast, smoke. Those are typical flavors of Rioja. And that's because Rioja is made using a lot of oak in a good way, not in a bad way, but that's the style in Rioja. We make 2 reds. The third one is yet to come. I have a bottle of this because we also used this yesterday. So these are our two reds. The one you're drinking today is the Reserve. The other one is called the Grand Reserve. And the difference between the two of them is that the Reserve sees no oak, okay? We want this to be fruity and very smooth and very easy to drink. We don't want it to be spicy. Whereas the other one, the Grand Reserve, this one is oak aged for 2 years. So if you're like a Rioja lover, you might also appreciate this one. Whereas if you are more like a Merlot or a Syrah or something like that, you might appreciate this one more. Or if you're a good red drinker, you might like them both. And that's the idea. But yeah, so reds, our reds are made to be, both of them, very smooth. And we kind of control that acidity, typical acidity of cool climates. We don't want it to be harsh for you. And red wines have another thing that you might have heard of, and it's called the tannins. So what are the tannins? What's the story with the tannins? So tannins are just a chemical substance, doesn't matter what it is, chemical thing that is inside the grapes. And when tannins are young, so it means that when you just crush your grapes and you just made your red wine, tannins can be a bit harsh, a bit astringent. So a wine that has been made very quickly or very like in scale can be, you know, this kind of red wines that you put it in your mouth and the first reaction is this, and kind of your gums are attached to your teeth and say, what's going on? It's so dry. And that's because the tannins have the capacity to bind with all the water in your mouth. So it's actually dried out your mouth completely, and your gums and everything is attached to your mouth. That's a wine that it has very green, chucky tannins. You might enjoy that, but you might need a lot of food with that. We don't want that. We want our tannins to be very, very smooth. So this wine has not any drying sensation. It has its structure. It's not like drinking, I don't know, black cherry juice. It has an structure, which is what the tannins does, but it's not astringent. Okay. Next time when you go, if you go for a cheap red wine in the pub and it has this drying sensation, you're going to think, oh yeah, tannins. All right. Oh, and another thing that I wrote down to talk about is the alcohol strength. So why, for instance, this red, the Reserve, is 11% alcohol. It's good because it's not very high alcohol, so you can drink more. But apart from that, we can't control that. This is the alcohol content of the wine is controlled by the sun. The sun will make the grapes accumulate more sugar. The more sugar you have, the more alcohol you will have in the final product, because the sugar is eaten by the yeast and produce alcohol. Okay, so if you're in Mendoza in the Aconcagua Mountains and you're very at 4,000 meters above the sea level, there is a lot of sun there. And all that sun goes to the Malbec grapes and accumulate a lot of sugar. So when you ferment that, you have your Malbec and the result is nothing less than 14.5, 15% alcohol. You can't control that because there's a lot of sun. In England, the sun is not Mendoza sun, okay? It comes and goes. This year there's a lot, but there's no grapes yet in the vine, so it's useless sun. The good sun we need in August, and it's probably rain every day in August. So we have a certain amount of sun, and therefore we will have a certain amount of sugar in our grapes. We can't control that, we can't change that. You could if you add a lot of sugar, but that would be illegal, so you can't do that. So in England or in any cool climate country or region like Burgundy, for instance, you can't go more than 12% alcohol, which is good because the market nowadays are not looking into very alcoholic wines, perhaps because that's a good excuse to have more glasses. But the thing is that port or sherry or things with a lot of alcohol has lost some terrain. They were much more popular 30 years ago. Nowadays, people want to drink something more like in between 11, 12% alcohol and not more. So they finish their bottle without guilt. It's the same alcohol anyway. But yeah, but that's why we have the alcohol that we have. It's just the sun. Right. So the next thing I wrote is to say is don't listen to me. So the thing that I always tell in my tours is everything that I told you, there's no secret, is things that everybody can know, or information that you can source. But the most important thing that I always encourage people, don't get obsessed with reading wine experts, okay? And don't let anybody, me or anybody, tell you what you have to like, okay? Wine is very personal. Unfortunately, it has developed like a snobby, pretentious circle that you can't see with beer, for instance. Beer is more relaxed. You can like it. I love IPA. My husband loves lager. It's fine. But in wine, it's like, oh no, if you don't like this Pinot Noir that costs £100, it's because you know nothing about wine, and that is not true. You don't need to know or not know to like or not like something. Okay, just forget about what people say or important wine connoisseurs or whatever. A wine is not about prices. I can make a wine and price it, I don't know, £200, and I like it, and you all hate it. And what's the point? So the most important thing is that you find your own favorite. Perhaps your palate prefers, I don't know, rosé, but don't like whites. That's fine. Perhaps your palate goes into fruity reds and not into super important, expensive Bordeaux, and that's fine as well. Okay, don't let people tell you what you have to like. The personal taste is so important with wine, so it's useless. So yeah, don't listen to me. Don't choose for the price. Choose what you like. If your favorite wine is a £5 wine, that's fine. If you enjoy it, that's fine. You don't have to be spend £100 to enjoy an evening. And if you appreciate wine and you like Bordeaux and you're in love with, I don't know, buying, I love Barolo, for instance. Barolo is a wine from Piedmont in northern Italy, and it's definitely my super favorite. I can kill for a Barolo. Unfortunately, they're always a little expensive. So every time I want to treat myself, I buy myself a bottle of Barolo, and that's fine. But that's my personal taste. Perhaps you would hate Barolo. So don't tell people don't let people tell you what you have to like. Just choose your wine. Oh, and yes, and this week is English Wine Week until Sunday, I believe. It's just out of a coincidence, but there is 1 week in the year that is English Wine Week. During lockdown or after lockdown, the appreciation for English or for local wine increased a lot all over the island, actually. And we can only be super grateful for that. Since all the bad times started, actually, we noticed a lot of people just popping in the shop and saying, we want to support local businesses. And you can't imagine how we are grateful for that, and how much we needed that with our wine bar closed, with our wine tour suspended, with the wedding suspended. And so we really needed that. And I think it's not something that it's something that came to stay, and a lot of people just chose and discover English wine during this period. And I hope that you are convinced that English wine is not super bad. I know that in the past, I don't know, 40 years ago, the weather was different. People perhaps didn't really know how to make proper wine. So perhaps English wine, if you tasted 40 years ago, was not very good. But all over the country, all the wineries in England, which are 150 wineries in England, which is amazing, have learned how to choose the proper grade. They've learned how to make their wine. They've learned how to adapt their own knowledge to consumers' taste. So English wine has been increasing in quality a lot. So, well, you're all local to us, but if you after lockdown and when everything goes back to normal, if you're around Kent, if you're around Sussex, go and visit other vineyards because they are making amazing stuff over there. And I come from a country with a very long winemaking history, and Italy is even worse. So we're very used to drink our own country wine. And in Argentina, we only drink Malbec or Cabernet Sauvignon or a few more grapes that we grow here there. And in Italy, they only drink Italian wine. So it's super fair that in England, you drink more English wine because it's your own wine. It's grown in your own land. So for us, it makes super sense. So anyway, we've been receiving a lot of support, and all you guys. It's amazing how many people chose to listen to all the silly things that I have said this evening, and to support not only us but support also the Hurst show, buying this little bag. And I hope you are enjoying the wines. I guess you have favorites. I hope you really like them all anyway. And yeah, starting from next weekend, you can just pop in and have a glass of wine. You can taste the other ones and see if you found a new favorite. And we are always here. So if you need English wine, we're just around the corner. So thank you anyway. I hope there are questions. I really look forward to listen to some questions. So I'm going to hand it to I don't know, to Sue, perhaps, if you want to ask questions, or you're going to I'll unmute people. Yeah,
I was going to hand back to Susie.
Yeah, okay.
So I've drunk quite a lot of wine now, so I hope you've all drunk as much wine as me. Thank you very much, Natalia. It's been really good evening.
Right.
I can't wait to come and drink more wine in the walled garden and sit in the sunshine. So thrilled that you'll be open. Thank you everyone again for joining. If you've got any questions for Natalia, please feel free to wave, do something so that we know you want to talk, maybe put comments, and then we can, or I think you can probably unmute yourselves, but maybe if you've got any questions.
Natalia, what's your favorite out of the white, red and the rosé that you've presented this evening?
Well, definitely the rosé. I'm a super rosé fan. We make rosé in Puglia with Nico, and we're very used to drink rosé. It's not it's a wine that's gaining popularity in England. It has like a bad reputation somehow because of bad brands that have ruined the reputation, but it's getting very popular. It's the bestseller the last 2 months, so it's amazing, and definitely my favorite. Or maybe I'm weather biased, but an evening like tonight, I will finish that bottle very quickly.
maybe you have a different answer in the winter, right? When
maybe yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I kind of, in summer I tend to ignore red, although there are reds that are light and easy to drink. But I have to be honest, from June to September, I kind of go whites and rosé, and yeah, rosé, I like it, yeah, very much. What's your personal taste? What's your favorite?
At the moment, rosé,
Yeah.
red going forward, but the white's been really nice. We've been really enjoying the white today.
Right.
So thank you for your time. It's really appreciated.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Do you stock any local restaurants, or are you purely for people coming to your shop for buying them?
So, you can find the Regatta. You can find it at Burratas in Fayre in Rascon, actually. He has the Regatta, and he has this red, the Grand Reserve, Stefano there. Stefano is Italian, but actually he's been in England for 40 years or more. If you go to Hawaii in Fayre, they have the Madeleine, which is another white that I don't have tonight, but it's a very smooth white, goes very well with Asian spicy food. That's why they always have Madeleine since ages. We're not in the pubs. We're very friends with many pubs, but many of the pubs in the area can't choose their own drinks. They are part of Breakspear, or they don't have the green man. They love us, but he can't buy our own wine. So not in the pubs. We are in other restaurants, but more far away, like High Wycombe. We are in some in Henley. But the majority of the wine, yeah, is sold through the cellar shop, or we have wine shops, but not restaurants. We are stocked in London, in a few places, in Cambridge, in Essex and in Sussex, but not in restaurants. We need to grow a little more the restaurant, but the main problem is that many restaurants can't choose their own drinks. You should go and insist, so perhaps the big chain said, yeah, you know, stock some English wine. But yeah, we can.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
Yeah, just quick question. What temperature should you drink the wine at? Should it be straight out the fridge for a white, or should you let it warm up?
Well, definitely white. Yeah, white is much better chilled. I will say 9 degrees, 8 degrees, even 6 degrees, depending on the wine. A day like today, definitely straight to the fridge. Rosé as well. But it's also interesting. You can start it with very chilled and pour it in your glass, and then the wine will be changing. And then you, according to your personal preferences and your personal flavor, the way of feeling the flavors and everything, you might realize how do you really like them. So there are people that drink the wine a little more warmer, and other people prefers chiller. But if you start from very chilled, you have the time to see how the wine is evolving and say, oh, next time I will just leave it half an hour. It's really up to you. And it's really up to each individual grape, which is also a bit annoying. But if you remember, yeah, if you have your favorite, you will have your own temperature. Otherwise, start very cool, because if it's too cold, you can wait a bit. If it's too warm, then you have to wait, and it's annoying. You have to put it back in the fridge, and that's the annoying part, right? So yeah, it's better if you start very, very chilled.
Okay, it's a good answer, thanks.
All right.
Go on, Nick, your question.
Who's that?
Brilliant. Anyone else got any other questions for Natalia before we wrap up?
Just read
No. If you've got any questions or you need to find any more about the wines, obviously Natalia is in the shop at Stanlake a lot of the time, so please feel free to pop in and ask there. And I think the wine tours are open soon as well, aren't they, Natalia, which are my personal favourites.
Yeah, next Saturday, on the 4th of July, we start everything. I think the majority of the Saturdays in July are sold out already, but there are Sundays and there are Saturdays 11 a.m. available. But yeah, if you're interested to do a wine tour this summer and you want to choose your date, you should just check our calendar very quickly, because everybody goes for the Saturdays. And we had 3 months of people that were booked in March, April, May, and June, 4 months. And all these people, their tour were suspended. And so they are just desperate, grabbing all the best days now that they can. So yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you ever so much. Enjoy drinking the last of your bottles of wine. I think I am. Please join us over the weekend for all the activities that are in the village over the weekend. Thanks, the Roberts, for that round of applause.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you ever so much. We really hope that we see you online on the website over the weekend. If you've had a great time, please don't forget to donate to the Just Giving page. We're really appreciative. But see you over the weekend. Thank you very much to Stanlake, and enjoy the rest of your Hurst show weekend. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I love the leaving meeting.